Good afternoon. It's Rob with Echo Front Properties, and we're back again highlighting another local business in our community. We've had this businessman on before in his business, and we're going to talk today about PPP loan forgiveness, business coaching, ways that your business can come out of this COVID-19 pandemic and hopefully stay successful. So I'm going to send it right out now to real estate agent Suzanne Slate. Say, hey, Suzanne. Oh, I gotta unmute you. Hold on. Can you unmute yourself? I can't unmute you.
Unmute.
There we go.
All right.
And Mr. Michael Sims from Veracity Advisers here in Palm Beach Gardens. What's up, Mike? How are you?
Hey, good afternoon, Rob. How are you? Hi, Suzanne.
Hey, Mike.
Good. So, Suzanne, I'm going to let you take it away. Let's find out a little bit more first, though, people that don't know about Veracity Advisors, what they offer, the services they offer, and then we'll get into that PPP loan forgiveness. So, Suzanne, take it away.
Hey, Mike. How are you today?
I'm great. How about yourself?
You're looking snappy. I think you got your hair cut.
I did, finally.
Finally, right? We're all like, whoo, thank God we're on the other side of this, hopefully on the other side of this pandemic. Anyway, it's so good to have you back here again. You're a wealth of information, and we want to share you again with all our people. So give us a little rundown of your business and your services so we can get familiar with that.
Great. Well, I really appreciate it. And again, as I think I mentioned to Rob and the folks at Echo, that I really believe that what you're doing not only is a service to the local business community, the regional business community, but is also one of the avenues that organizations are going to have to refine to be relevant in the landscape, in the business landscape for the future. So with that, Veracity Advisors is a business coaching and wealth coaching firm that really grew out of Veracity Financial Advisors. My partner and I, 12 years ago, started Veracity Financial Advisors as a wealth management company here locally, really focused on helping business owners. And in that, we found that we could talk to business owners about their wealth, but 80% on average of their wealth is their business. And we really wanted, my background is in business. My business partner was an entrepreneur before we both got into this business. And, we decided, hey, the way to do that is really how do we come alongside and work with the business owner on their most valuable asset, being their business. So that led us into several different tangents where we collected valuable resources like business valuation engines, where we can democratize the creation of a business valuation for business owners at a fraction of the price that they would normally pay a CPA. To now we've released, right at the moment of COVID, we released our coaching platform and are looking forward to engaging with business owners and working with them to benchmark the value of their business, identify what their hopes, dreams, and goals are for their business and their family, and then work with them and coach them towards achievement of that goal.
That's amazing. So, you're talking about businesses, but you can also be like a sole proprietor like ourselves in real estate and still benefit from your package, your coaching, because you don't have to have a big company in order to get coaching to be successful.
Right. And there are some basic fundamentals that, and that's where we go to is there are basic fundamentals for every business. And they're the same. The widget is different. The service might be different. But underlying those are basic financial principles, growth. One process we call is hub and spoke, which is ownership involvement. If you're an owner of a company and you have employees, your involvement really determines the long-term value of the business. You need to be involved, but it must not always be about you. A little anecdote: we recognize that doing an engagement with a group down in Miami, a recycling firm, where we valued the business at over $38 million, and then had to tell the business owner it was really worth nothing because every critical job, every critical relationship was driven directly through the owner of the business. And we had to explain to them that anyone who would come in and drop $40 million would insist that he stay in that capacity for 5 to 10 years.
Right.
He had no management structure. He had no vision beyond. He was really good at building himself a job. But I told him, for $40 million, I don't want your job. So people are going to have better things to do with their acquisition dollar than to buy themselves a job. So that's really where we interviewed several business brokers here in Palm Beach County. We discovered close to 90% of businesses that come in to sell are turned away because they're not prepared to be sold. They haven't been run as a business to sell, whether it's to their children, to their employees, or to a third party. And so this kind of gets them in the ability, hey, let's grow your business, and let's also get it aligned so that it is worth something when you decide you want to leave it. You can make that transition a lot easier and a lot more with a lot more value to the business owner.
Yeah. So what your business model must have changed dramatically due to COVID and the pandemic. And I'm sure what you're recommending to the businesses. How has it changed? And what are you doing?
Well, it's, prior to the COVID outbreak, we were just beginning to launch the coaching platform. We had always been very focused on wealth management and having that discipline down. And we were engaging with CPAs. Our go-to, and a lot of times when we meet business owners, we insist that they introduce us to their CPA, because we do not want to work with a business owner unless we're working hand in hand with their CPA. Right. We want to develop a key advisory team for that business owner, almost like a board of directors.
Right.
So that we all are collaborating on behalf of the business owner. So we were going out to talk to them, and when this happened, it provided us a great opportunity to not only serve business owners, but their CPAs with just collecting information. The PPP program, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, now the Main Street Lending Program. These are all very complicated programs that, quite frankly, I've noticed on a variety of social media platforms, LinkedIn, where even CPAs are promulgating bad information, old information. And these things are very fluid and they're changing. So what we've been doing is in the office at 7:30 every morning, checking the Treasury website, the Fed website, going through all the updates, trying to distill that down to meaningful changes, and then communicating that out to our business owner clients as well as to the CPAs that we work with, so that they're armed with the most recent information to give their clients. And we've done a lot of that. Actually, we've done all of it at no cost, simply because we feel that that's a niche that we could build trust with both the CPAs and business owners, that there are a lot of people who are charging for that knowledge. And, I just don't think you take a guy who's worried about saving his business and charge him a fee to give him publicly available information.
Right.
Just because I took the time, they're worried about so many other things. As I tell them when they ask me, what can you charge me? I'll say a cup of coffee in 6 months when this all blows over. Yeah. And we can talk about coaching, or we can talk about, what your wealth goals are. But we're seeing it as a great opportunity to build trusting relationships.
Well, that's what's so important about our local, businesses. And, when this first happened, we spoke to you and everybody was like, how do I do this? How do I get the EID? How do I get the PPP? And you walked us through it, because you're scared. You don't know what to do. It's an unprecedented territory that none of us know what to do. So you need guidance. And for you to provide that, it gave people a little bit of stability so they can then think on their feet again and then go forward and not let this happen again.
I think, as you saw it, all of the banks, I think the large corporate banks have done themselves a huge disservice in that they focused on their big clients, and they didn't focus on the mid-sized, small-sized businesses and the professionals who are like the dentists, the lawyers, the doctors, the really successful real estate firms. Right? They didn't focus on those people, and as a result, they were left with no information. And especially independent contractors, The information for independent contractors, sole proprietors came out late, came out after the first wave. Everybody is, there was very little information to get out. And, I was happy to be able to come on because I could certainly tell in the conversation there were people relieved that there was information for them, that they could go forward. And I've gotten emails from people saying, hey, I got my, my PPP loan. I got my EIDL. I'm going to be able to last 2, 3, 4 months through this, which I think is great because that in the intent of the program, that's what the intent of the program was. It wasn't to give the Lakers $4.5 million or send $20 million to Ruth Chris. They can float a bond. They can get money elsewhere. Well, really what it was to drive money down to the small business owner so they can get money out to their employees, the independent contractors, and let them go kind of into, my old military analogy is a hover mode, like the helicopter, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot quicker for a helicopter to get moving if it's hovering, right? Just tilt the nose forward and go, than if it's sitting on the
ground trying to take off.
He's got to start it up and get moving and and same thing with these small businesses. If they have to lay people off, they have to go through a hiring phase. They have to identify talent again. It's a kind of a free for all to get started. And the whole concept of these programs were, let the business owners keep paying income to their employees, even though they were shut, and the employees would have money to sustain themselves through the crisis. So when it was all clear, they could just turn the lights back on and bring the people in and get to work. And I think you see that in some regards with a lot of our restaurants. They've been able to get some of it. They haven't been able to bring their full staff in. They would bring the kitchen staff in. They could pay the wait staff. But now you're starting to see as they open up, they're able to bring more of their staff in. They don't have to retrain. They don't have to teach menus. They're just putting them right back to work. And that was the impetus and the desire of the plan to begin with. So,
well, you're going to do a seminar, and when you're having on the 7 essential questions post COVID, is that something?
Right. So we want to come out of this. Before we come out of this, we really want to engage with business owners of all shapes and sizes. We have a webinar that we're going to be doing next week. I think it's Wednesday of next week. And the main focal point is for business owners to stop and take a breath, look at where their business was and identify, hey, a lot of businesses are created into something that wasn't the original vision.
Right.
We don't always get an intermission in our business life, but really, if we look optimistically at what we've gone through, let's use this as an intermission. Okay, and if we take that intermission and we look at who we really wanted to be, what are those business lines that are the most profitable? What are the ones that are a drag on our business? And then really distill it back down to 7 really essential questions. Very basic things that most business owners really don't stop to take the time to think about on an ongoing basis. But wow, we've got a moment of pause. Let's stop and take a discerning thought process through these questions and come out the other end with, hey, we could tweak our business going forward and be more profitable, maybe not have to work as hard, maybe have more time to, be involved with my family and still generate the revenue and the growth that we need the business to be.
Yeah. Well, that's the silver lining. There's always a silver lining if you look for it. And we've all been able to stay at home, forced to stay at home, spend more time with your family, reflect on your business, your family life, your everything, your yard. So it's been, to me, it's been very difficult, but I've learned a lot. So I think there's many people in that same situation, and you don't want to be in that position again. So learn from it and go forward. Correct?
Right. And even, even any profession, any business, Rob and I have had conversations because Rob's a good friend is, where were you before this? And where do you conceive going through this and on the other end? And how do we talk about those things? Because that's really the goal is not the measure of how far you've fallen, but, how you get up from the fall. I coach Rob's son in football, and that's the thing we would preach all the time to the kids is, it's not getting knocked down, it's getting right back up and getting that other guy's face and coming back and overcoming the challenge that's before you and being optimistic and positive. And I believe that, things are going to come back stronger. I see a lot of great strength coming from the people who want to be back engaged. We don't have a lot of people in our country who just want to sit back.
Right.
They do want to get their businesses back going, and they're anxious to get it going. And we hope we're able to engage some business owners and help them improve, kind of change the trajectory after the rocket launch yesterday, change the trajectory of their business a little bit. And if we change it 1 degree today, in 20 years, that 1 degree is a much larger span, and their business is going to be very different than where it would have been had we never done it. And that's really the objective.
Hey, Mike, what are some things that maybe small businesses who receive the PPP loan, something that they're not doing right now that they should be doing? Is there any tips you can give? I know that's an 8-week program. Like what should people be doing if they're not doing it already?
Right. So the first that we talked about before was segment any money you get from these programs, be it the EIDL, the PPP, segment it into a separate bank account. The most important part of any of these programs is that you keep very detailed documentation. If you receive the PPP, you need to keep your documentation for 6 years. So, if you opened a separate bank account and you withdrew from that bank account to pay payroll, you've got documentation, you've got record of it. And so those are the things that you want to set up, those processes, so that they're very definable that you can point back to. Secondly, and where I kind of said I think the big banks have hurt themselves, I think the smaller regional community banks who stepped up and helped a lot of businesses, you recognize those relationships are what your business banking needs to be all about. So call them. If you got a loan, whoever you got the loan from, call them and ask them, okay, you now, as of last Thursday, they received their guidance for forgiveness from the Treasury Department and the SBA. What do you want to see? Because every bank is going to make that decision, and it's going to be somewhat different. Ideally, they would understand that they don't have any risk in this and they could just pass it on through as long as they saw basic compliance, but you never know. So have a plan, have a separate bank account. A lot of times with independent contractors, everything gets commingled into their personal accounts. We try to say, look, just open another account, put that in there every week, take 1/8, call it your pay. Don't take it all at once into your personal accounts. 1/8, pay yourself so you can show you've paid yourself over a timely period and get it forgiven. What we don't want to have is it get commingled with operating expenses of businesses or, some of these other challenges. And you're giving somebody an opportunity to say, hey, I don't necessarily know if that's forgivable, right? You want to dispel all of that. The best way to do it is, create that paper trail. And ideally, for even businesses with multiple employees that have to make payroll, is to understand how much money did they get. They have to spend at least 75% of it on payroll. Understand what that number is. The guidance for when and how they pay payroll is not indicated, so it's really left up to the employer. But make sure that there's very clear delineation of that use of that money as payroll. For the EIDL money can be used for a lot more operating expenses as well as some payroll when you get beyond the PPP 8-week period. We advocate to really look at, do you need it? And if you don't need it, we still advocate you take it, but let's put that money in a reserve somewhere. Let's try to get you 4 or 5% interest in a bond ladder. You don't have to start paying for it for 12 months. Let's let it sit because we don't know if there's going to be a second wave of COVID. We don't know. I mean, I just read today that they're expecting a more active than average hurricane season. So we don't know what faces us for the rest of 2020. I mean, 2020 has started off as a pretty crazy year. And if it keeps on this track, having an account with liquidity and reserve that you can go to if the lights get shut off because of a hurricane and you need you need to get things, infuse some capital in your business, that's a wise way to use debt. You can always pay it back in a year with no consequence, no penalty, no prepayment penalty. Most of the EIDL loans are 30-year loans anyway. So if you get, $20,000, an EIDL loan is, think it's less than $1,000 a year. You're talking less than $100 a month. You'll end up paying for it, or you can pay it off at any time. So we really just try to advocate for, hey, let's be wise about using these resources so that you can sustain a couple more crises in the next year or so. We have a big election coming up. We see what's happening with the impact of what happened in Minneapolis. We don't know how that's going to affect local, regional, and national economies and businesses. It's just liquidity is always the best component for any business to have so that they can make meaningful changes in tough times.
And Mike, you've been very helpful with myself, and I appreciate all the time you've put in, and just for the local community. You've listened to me multiple times, probably sick and tired of hearing from me. But what's the best way for someone to get in contact with you if they have questions, if they maybe need to use your services for that business coaching? How can they get in contact with you?
Well, the best email address is M as in Michael, S as in Sims, at Veracity Advisers.com, and that's Veracity, and advisors, it's ADVISERS, not ORERS. And our phone number here is 561-472-0815, 561-472-0815. We're taking calls, we're working with people, we're giving advice, we're trying to marry people up. I think, Rob, you've heard and seen us. People will call and say, hey, I need to be engaged with a CPA who's going to be more proactive. Well, we work with those sorts of CPAs. So we try to marry people up and get them the resources they need to be successful moving forward.
How do we get involved in your seminar? Because I would love to get on that.
I will send Rob an email invite as it comes out. We're going to do, like I said, a webinar. Try to keep it to about half hour, 45 minutes, just kind of an introduction. Ideally, what we seek to do is build a mastermind, probably every other week mastermind group, to bring in collective business owners, either in person or online, and work through some of these questions and learn from each other and help grow individual businesses through the experiences of others and the ideas that we bring to the table. So that's where we've really seen these sorts of concepts benefit the business community.
Awesome. Thank you so much for doing all that. That's
one thing,
awesome.
Suzanne, about Mike, which is nice, is he's a local guy. He lives here. He's part of this community. He wants to help the local businesses as much as he can. I mean, if businesses in our community fail, then we fail as a full unit. It's just not a good thing. But Mike's always been there. He's there to help. He's there to listen. And if he doesn't know the answer, which I think he's had every answer so far for me. So I think he knows just about everything. Now I'm blowing his head up a little bit. It got a little big there, but I think he knows what he's talking about. If not, he'll help you find that right person or help you, point you in the right direction.
Well, you know what, Rob, one of the things I love doing, I've been very involved at Palm Beach Gardens High School, working with the magnet programs now 7 or 8 years. And I've really enjoyed going in and seeing the young men and women who are graduating and coming into the world. And some of them are starting to come back with college degrees and wanting to be involved in the community. And, if we don't strengthen business and if we don't invest in our community, then they're going to go elsewhere. And, it's really, I got a phone call yesterday from a gentleman who graduated with his master's degree in entrepreneurialism and former college football player. And he said, hey, Mr. Sims, I'm coming back. I want to have lunch. I really, he wants to find out where he best fits in our business community. And it's, there's a lot of great validation that we're making our community stronger. We're not just a place of people who've moved in from other places. We're organically growing our communities, and that's what really makes it stronger.
And you're right. We want to keep everybody here. I mean, where else would we want our kids to be than
Right.
here? I mean, this is such a great place to live. Why have to go somewhere else? I think a lot of people don't want to go to the cities anymore because of what's happened. This is, if you're going to go through a pandemic, this is the area we want to be in. So we need to focus on our local business and take care of everybody.
Right, and there's great opportunity. I mean, to tangent off, I mentor two young Haitian American young men and two African American young men. They're all freshmen in college and football players, and we had them over for dinner on Saturday night, and we had a really tough, challenging conversation about what's going on in the world, and we listened to them, and we tried to listen. What is it they see, face, and hear? I mean, these are kids that my son looks up to, that my son, that I encourage. I want my son to be engaged with young men like this. And, to hear their stories of being followed around the mall and just being presumed, kind of breaks your heart a little bit. So one of my activities going forward, I'm going to, I've told them, I want to get you guys, and I want to get the right people at the local police departments and have a dialogue and give you the reassurance that people are listening and hearing and not judging you, so that we don't run into these things when someone goes rogue on either side, because boy, there's some really neat, smart kids who at 19 have gotten full-time jobs as they work their way through college while they play football. I mean, to be a full-time athlete in college is hard enough, but I mean, one of them just got a job selling cars at Nissan. I mean, they found him and offered him a job. He was working in telephone stores and putting himself through college. I mean, it's amazing to see how hard they work and how dedicated they are. So it's really just trying to say, hey, those are the guys that need to really evolve and come back into our community and be the leaders, because they're being the leaders in high school and college. So it's a lot of there's a lot of reward in that's not measured in a bank account, but it's great fun and very rewarding for us.
Well, I just want to thank you again, Mike, for joining us. And one more time, if people are interested in getting in contact with you, maybe questions on their PPP loans, maybe they do need that one-on-one business coaching to help them through and realize, what they have to do for the foreseeable future. How can they get in contact with you again?
561-472-0815. 472-0815. If I'm not in, one of the girls will transfer you to my mobile phone. Try to answer everything. Certainly get back to people within 24 hours, because if someone's calling, it's important to them. And so we want to make sure that we're attentive to that concern.
Well, that's Michael Sims with Veracity Advisors and Suzanne Slate, real estate agent, Equifine Properties. Thank you guys so much for coming on today. And Mike, send me that link. We'll pass that link along.
Will do. Rob, thanks for what you're doing, and thank Jeff for this. Is a great format, and I think it's certainly leading in the Palm Beach County area and the Treasure Coast area for what businesses should be doing. So thanks for your work, your vision, and all the effort you put into it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon, everyone.